First, we're joined by Amos Waranch, an attorney and legal expert partner at Waranch Nunn. You may visit waranchnunn.com and get some excellent legal information there as well. All right, Amos, so this is an interesting one. It goes back to a fairly high-profile case. The former software engineer for Google, James Damore, who ended up leaving the company and accused Google of political bias against him as a conservative and then other conservatives. The lawsuit has been brought, and now it's coming to the point to where this class action lawsuit is going to take its next step. So what is the situation as Google is potentially facing charges that it is biased against conservatives?
Right, yes. Well, so the Federal Civil Rights Act does not contain a requirement that companies do not discriminate against political affiliations. There's no such thing as political discrimination under federal law, but many states have kind of stepped in and put additional laws in place that make it illegal under California state law for Google to discriminate. And what's going on is the federal judge just certified a class. So from a legal procedural perspective, now the suit can move forward as a class action lawsuit against Google. And there's a lot of interesting things that are going to happen in the short term about how that's going to move forward.
Has political ideology ever come into play in a case like this?
As far as I'm aware, there's been very, very few of cases like this in federal courts under federal discrimination law claims. They have existed, but never something quite so high profile as this.
And if we end up seeing this granted class status, what are the implications for other employers? Could you see a situation in which you have people across the country with employers smaller than Google that believe they might have been biased against on the basis of their political affiliation? Could you see that cropping up?
Well, possibly, and what I said at the very beginning is important. It depends on your jurisdiction. So if you feel like you've been targeted, if one of your listeners feel like they've been targeted for being conservative or some sort of political bias, I would strongly encourage them to reach out to a licensed employment attorney in their jurisdiction, because it's going to vary from state to state. Like I said, California has one of the strongest anti-political discrimination laws in the nation, and some of other states don't necessarily have quite so powerful laws.
And Amos, when we take a look at the situation specific to Google, we know, for example, that there has been a lot of pressure, public pressure, by other Google employees against allowing conservatives to work in certain capacities for the company. Is that evidence that would be used against the company in court, that their employees have obviously this institutionalized pressure?
Yeah, well, potentially. You know, the evidence can take the form of testimony or an affidavit or maybe some sort of written document. I understand there was a pretty controversial memo that Mr. Damore penned and made public, and that will certainly be evidence in the case. You know, the details of specifically who's going to testify, I'm not equipped to answer that question.
Now, we know protected classes include those based upon ethnicity, age, and race, other factors that are defining that way. If this ended up becoming a win for Damore and Google employees that fell into this class, would this effectively, under law, define a new class of protected Americans based upon political affiliation?
The answer to your question, unfortunately, my friend, is no. It would only apply to the federal court interpreting California law. So it would be precedential. It would have value and precedent under California law, but it would not have a nationwide precedential value. It would, however, it's called persuasive authority. So if somebody were to bring a suit under solely federal law in, for example, a state like Texas, where I'm licensed to practice law, that does not have a political discrimination statute separate in state law, that could potentially raise what you're trying to say, where the political discrimination would be illegal federally. But that's not what's going on in the Google suit.
All right, well, it's good information. Thank you for taking the time and explaining it to us. Amos Waranch, again, with Waranch Nunn. You may visit waranchnunn.com.